You prayed. You meant it. You poured your heart out to God. And then, silence. No sign. No answer. No fruit. Maybe you've been praying for weeks, maybe years, and a quiet, dangerous question has started to form in the back of your mind. Does he even hear me? That question is as old as prayer itself, and a 13th century mystic named Saint Gertrude the Great received one of the most extraordinary answers to it ever recorded. What God told her did not just comfort her, it completely changed how she understood prayer. And it might change everything for you, too. A woman came to Saint Gertrude with a burden she could no longer carry alone. She had been prayed for, fervently, persistently, by the saint herself and by others, and yet nothing had changed. No healing, no relief, no consolation. The prayers seemed to vanish into the air. She wanted to know why. So Gertrude brought the question directly to God. And what she received back was not a rebuke, not a vague comfort. It was an analogy so precise, so human, that it's hard not to feel it land somewhere deep. God said to her, "Ask this person what she would think most advantageous to a cousin or any other relative for whom she ardently desired a benefice, whether the right to it should be conferred on him as a child, or whether he should be allowed the revenues also, and permitted to use them as he pleased." Even according to human wisdom, the answer is obvious. You would wait. You would hold it in trust. You would not hand a fortune to a child who hasn't yet learned what to do with it. And then God said something that should stop us cold. "Let her believe that I preserve carefully the fruit of all the prayers and desires which are addressed to me for her, until a suitable time comes to permit her the enjoyment of them." The prayers were not lost, not ignored, not refused. They were being held in trust by God Himself until the soul was ready to receive them without being ruined by them. But here is where the revelation goes deeper, because God didn't just say the timing wasn't right. He named what could go wrong. Then to pour into her soul some sweetness which might perhaps be an occasion of vainglory to her, or be tarnished by her pride, or to grant her some temporal prosperity which might prove an occasion of sin. Read that again slowly. The very blessing you're crying out for, answered too soon, might destroy you. This is not a cold calculation by a distant God. This is a Father who knows exactly what happens when spiritual gifts arrive before the soul is strong enough to hold them humbly. He has watched the pattern repeat across centuries of human souls. The consolation received without readiness becomes a pedestal. The healing received without humility becomes pride. The prosperity granted without patience becomes a snare. And because He loves, truly loves, He waits. This is not delay. This is protection. There is another account from the life of Saint Gertrude that cuts even closer. One of her religious sisters had prayed for a long time for a particular grace. She prayed fervently. She had expressed her confusion, even her amazement at the silence she received in return. Then, finally, God spoke, and what He said was not what she expected. "I have delayed answering your prayers because you have not yet sufficient confidence in the effects which my mercy produces in you." He was not waiting for her to become more worthy. He was waiting for her to become more trusting. And then He held up Gertrude as the example. "Why do you not act like Gertrude, my chosen virgin, who is so firmly established on my providence that there is nothing which she does not hope for from the plenitude of my grace? Therefore I will never refuse her anything, whatever she may ask me." The fruit of prayer is not just the answer. The fruit of prayer is the soul that perseveres through the silence.
A soul that prays and receives everything immediately never learns to trust the hand that gives. But a soul that prays in darkness, in uncertainty, in hope against hope, that soul is being shaped into something that can receive far more than it originally asked for. The silence is a school, and the lesson is trust. The following account may be the most astonishing of all. A severe drought had struck, threatening the harvest. Saint Gertrude, whose prayers had moved mountains, who had literally stopped storms, went to God on behalf of her people. And God refused her. But he did not leave her in confusion. He offered an explanation. "Because I design by the terrors of this tempest to conquer some who rebel against my will, and at least to oblige them to seek me by prayer, since they only come to me when they have no other resource, it is necessary that I should refuse you what you desire." The unanswered prayer was not for Gertrude. It was for the souls who had forgotten God, souls who only remember to seek Him when there is nowhere else to turn. The suffering was the last door left open to them. God is working with every thread, every person, every hardship simultaneously. What looks like your unanswered prayer may be someone else's last chance at conversion. And he added, "That you may know that your prayers have not failed in their effect, I will grant you in return some other spiritual favor." Nothing is wasted, not one prayer, not one tear. So when the silence stretches on, when you kneel and rise again and kneel again and feel nothing, remember what God told Saint Gertrude. He is not absent. He is not indifferent. He is holding every prayer like a father holds a trust fund for a child he loves, waiting for the moment when receiving it will build you up rather than tear you down, waiting for the trust to deepen, waiting for the heart to be ready. Sometimes waiting for another soul, one you'll never know, whose conversion depended on your petition going unanswered. The fruit of your prayer is not lost. It is preserved, and it is growing. Keep praying.
If this video opened your eyes, share it with someone who needs to see it. Hit that like button to help us spread the word, and subscribe because we're diving deeper into the forgotten treasures of our faith that could change your eternity.